Oh, certainly. We've always known that this year politics will trump economics for this particular year. This year is quite different from about 4 years ago where we were entering recession, but now we've come out of recession and the factors that lead to economic growth are all there. Even though the growth has been very tepid, we still have some major issues. I think the challenge we're having this year is that the ruling party obviously will be judged based on its performance and what it has done, but they're also very lucky that we're not getting much of the opposition talking about the economy and what they can do for the economy. But for sure, as you can see from the stock market and other indices, politics has really taken over all the narration and all the discussions in the local environment. I think investors and everybody is having a wait-and-see attitude as there is no clarity as to the way forward. I would love to think once we are quite clear as to who we believe will be the political candidates for the presidency, I think we'll start being a lot more clearer. And once we're also sure as to which party might win, I think we'll start having clarity. But for now, everything is wait and see. Everything is on hold, hazy, and we're just waiting to see what will happen.
All right. You talked about the opposition parties not particularly saying what they are going to do if elected into office, which is key. You have to tell me what you're offering differently. So let's look at the candidates. Are we seeing any clear differences between the key contestants for our SOROC, that is from an economic policy perspective? Bimbo.
At this point, we are not seeing any differences. The two major parties just appear to be vehicles for acquiring power. There are no ideological differences between the two parties. Unfortunately, for those who are really talking about the economy and coming up with clear alternatives and what they can do, they appear to be on the fringes. They appear to be on political platforms that have not caught the imagination of the average Nigerian, so their voice is not being heard. So at this point in time, it does not appear as if your economic policy is what's going to drive those that are actually running for power. That is a bit disappointing because we'll have thought at this stage people will be coming out with alternatives. People will come out with alternative ideas. The problems of Nigeria are well documented. The problems and even the solutions are quite very clear. It's just to also get candidates that will articulate how we are going to get there. And it's just unfortunate that at this point in time we are now having more discussions around there. All right. The opposition party, we are not yet sure who exactly will be their candidates. Maybe when their candidates do emerge, we'll start asking some hard questions on what exactly are they going to do when they acquire power.
All right, yeah, Bimbo, you talked about the challenges of Nigeria being well documented. Let me ask you straight out, what would you be expecting, from them? What would you be expecting that they should be talking about in terms of the economy?
At this point in time, the major issue facing Nigeria is that it's still a monoproduct economy. The bulk of our income is from oil. So the key issue is diversification of the economy. How do we diversify the economy from oil? While I do agree that will take some time, but there's some also low-hanging fruits that I can talk about. How do we make the cost of doing business in Nigeria a lot cheaper? We all know that the engine of growth should come from the private sector, should come from SMEs. But for the SMEs, operating environment is still a bit challenging. The government has been talking about ease of doing business, but there are some obvious signs that gives us the idea that things are not yet working. I mean, the very clear one is this is a country that is import dependent, and you now see the queues on trying to get goods out of the proper ports. Now, if you are somebody that is doing business in Nigeria and it's taking you weeks to clear your goods, you can imagine the impact on the cost of doing business. Interest rates are still relatively high. I don't expect them to fall in the short to medium term because of the structure of the economy, but we must get the cost of borrowing down to single digit. For the average business person, the cost of borrowing is still extremely high. The issue of corruption is well documented. We are seeing some noises, but the optics are not very good. Until recently, we are not yet sure who has ever been convicted for corrupt practices. There are so many areas in terms of transportation, moving on the roads, even and the cost of doing business and easing it. We talk about even the checkpoints on the road. We've replaced police checkpoints with customs checkpoints. We're not so sure what exactly are they doing. Government will tell us they are trying to do things, but the reality on ground is totally different. What we need is somebody that can really articulate the plans and more like talk the walk or walk the talk. The issues are, like I said, very well documented, but how do we go about it? The issue of corruption, the issue of security challenges are also still there, even though we must say that there has been massive improvement in that particular area, but still a lot still needs to be done down that route.
Yeah, a lot still needs to be done, and like you said, it might take some time. Well, some political economists believe the Osinbajo Buhari team, they need more time and should be giving another term. Others say the trajectory is wrong. What do you say?
I think at this point in time, they are trying their best. Like I said, they are making the right noises. Each time you see the vice president being in charge, you see decisive decisions being taken and statements being made. But the reality is one thing to make statements, the other thing is what do we see on ground. The engine of growth should be the private sector. We should be doing everything we can to make things easier for the private sector, and in particular the SME segment. The issue of multiplicity of taxes are all still there. I really do feel sorry for those in the SME sector. Once you are documented and you're registered with government, it's as if it's an avenue for people to come with all kinds of taxes and levies for you to operate in. The issue again is we all know the Nigerian market is large. If you can sell to Nigerians, it's almost a conviction that you'll make money from it. But the reality is, how do you get access to the market? Agriculture is still the mainstay. It's an area that we need to grow. Again, the question is, how do we now ensure they're able to sell at a convenient price and actually have access to the markets that you're selling into? The issue of export is there. How do we ensure that what you're exporting, you get the right quality certification to ensure that what you do sell abroad can be certified and be acceptable? So there are also so many things that we need to deal with to ensure that at least the average Nigerian manufacturer or those in the SM sector can actually thrive in our environment.
All right, Bimbo, the government came out recently with a plan to help the SMEs, give them loans. And then there's the issue of the swap deal with China. If we have time, we'll talk about it. But many differ on the role and contribution of the central bank to the country's economic growth. What's your sense of what central bank has been able to do to ginger the economy?
Well, I really do feel for the central bank. They are caught between a hard place and a stone. What are the policy options ahead of them? I think for this year is a question of wait and see. Let's keep things stable. And that's why you've seen even arising from their last MPC Monetary Policy Committee meeting, they kept almost all the indicators the same, meaning that they don't want any surprises. So really going forward, I really do feel for them, but I think they are really trying their best. Some of the options and policy options, they really have no control over some of the things. If you look at this year now, the major thing that is buffeting everybody globally is the rise in dollar and the rise of global interest rate, which should have an effect even here domestically. But you can see there's been no effect. Nobody's even talking about it. Whereas we do know, if you have rising interest rates abroad, you yourself must be able to come out with some other policies here to really try and address the issue of capital flight. So what we are saying is that we'll probably continue using our reserve to meet any drawdown or any capital that is leaving Nigeria. And these are things we have to be worried about. The signs are there. If you're having rates going up outside Nigeria, investors obviously would like to divest from Nigeria and move abroad, and that will have an impact on the FX. Therefore, there must be a policy response, but so far there is none. It does appear as what we'll do is that, and thank God we have the buffers, we can continue meeting the offshore, the demands for foreign exchange. But even outside that, you can see interest rates, they've kept the rates very stable again. Even though everybody is clamoring for let's have a lower interest rate regime, I think even though inflation has come down, you can see I do expect over time there'll still be an uptick in that. This is not the time for it now to bring rates to such a level that people will start divesting out of the country. So from an analyst point of view, looking at what central bank is doing, I think they are trying their best given the challenges that they do have. But at the end of the day, the central bank too must be very mindful of the political environment, and clearly they must make sure they do things that will not send out bad news or give negative vibes to the average Nigerian in the run-up to the election.